Hey buddies, welcome to AmassGames. My name is Simon. Today we're talking about my top 10 duplicate copies of games. These are games I own more than one copy of. Now there are a few exceptions that I will be talking to you about and the reasons why I do have so many of these games. So games I'm not including in this list include games such as playing cards. Playing cards you can kind of get anywhere, and I do feel that it's not specific enough to be counting. And even though I could include it, we're not going to include my multiple copies of chess sets. We're talking about more modern games, but by all means you could have them. These are just some of them. These aren't all of them, but they're all very nice, and there's a reason why I like to keep them all. This one I got in Poland, over in I think Krakow. This one I was given, and I think the other one I was given two magnetic ones, all very good. Highly recommend chess. Do check out my chess video. A room I cannot find, but I do have multiple copies of a room. It's somewhere in the house, and one of the reasons why another copy is somewhere else is because typically there are certain people who know like certain games, and it's best to leave them at my parents' house or wherever where it's best to do so. So we'll try and do this in some kind of order. Now there are other examples of games which I will not be including on this list. So you might have seen my video for Hanabi Deluxe 2 edition worth £80. But this involves tiles, it does not involve cards, so I'm not including it on the list, even though, to be honest, it's the identical game. That's a rare exception. Typically, if you can play exactly the same game, then I think it is fair. It's a bit different, though, because with these ones, you could choose to orientate them differently, and for that reason, you might feel that you could have more of an advantage, which I feel is quite nice for playing this game. So that is Hanabi Deluxe 2. Again, not in the top 10, but it's something you might want to check out. There's also another game whereby it's a toy game. In fact, I haven't reviewed this one yet, but it's a limited first edition. I have two copies of this for some reason. I thought my nieces would be quite interested in playing this at some point, and it's quite apt because this is being filmed at the end of November. So I thought this is quite handy to talk about, but this is something, again, I've got duplicate copies of. So that's kind of starting that top 10, but let's start off with something whereby we're going to get serious. I'm trying to think where I want to start this, but yeah, I actually do have 3 copies of Hey, That's My Fish. And this is a game whereby it's an abstract strategy game, it's an area control game. Why do I have multiple copies? Well, I've got 2 of this edition, the Fancy Flight edition, and I have a Polish edition. But why is the Polish edition in the collection? Because I've put it all in my bag. It comes with wooden pieces, which I think are a lot better than the plastic and miniature pieces that you can see on the back of the box. So that is why that is in the collection. Next up, we have got Zexnimt, multiple copies of Zexnimt. This one actually isn't even opened. I couldn't find the other one. It's over in Germany currently. In-laws like playing that one, and that's why we have multiple copies of it. It plays up to 10 players. I think we also have 3 copies. This is by VR though. Another game with an exclamation mark. You've seen this on the channel before. This is No Thanks. A very popular video on the channel. And the reason why I've got 2 copies is this one comes with pedals. As you can see, I haven't even opened this copy yet. And even though it's twice the size, these plastic small discs are a little fiddly and they can roll, whereas the pebbles are quite nice. So rather than having little discs flying around, I do have some extra components you can play with it too, a little expansion, which I haven't filmed yet, kind of a little promo. So that is No Thanks. Highly recommend checking that one out. And that's kind of like number 8 in the list. But one game I'm not going to talk to you about, but it is kind of in this list as well. It could be Similio because you can play with multiple decks and it's the same game. But I feel that any kind of expansions or something like this, it's kind of re-implementation, and for that reason doesn't count. But different versions of a game whereby this is a different language, I think that's fair game. Okay, next up we have got Wizard. So Wizard is a game whereby it's a trick-taking game. It's a very popular video on the channel as well. There's standard Wizard you've seen on the channel. You've also seen Wizard Jubilee Edition, which is the same video in fact I use. But there's also Wizard Extreme, and I've also got Wizard 25th Anniversary Edition on here too. So about 4 or 5 copies of Wizard in the collection. Again, different places. Some cards have really been mashed up at this point. Highly recommend checking out Wizard. Right, 2 copies of Codenames. In fact, technically 3, but one was kind of given to an aunt. So this is a team building game, it's a team building game in the sense you need to win, but it's cooperative. You're working as a team against another team, and you're trying to get people to guess certain words. Highly recommend checking this one out as well. This is one of my most played games, over 100 plays of Codenames. All right, next up we have got Dominion. So their 2nd edition and 1st edition, I don't know if that's enough of a difference. I chose not to include as a difference because I felt I've got 2 editions of 7 Wonders, and I do prefer the new edition. I know some people thought the 2-player heads-up stuff was quite nice, but no, I do agree it's not as good. But no, for some reason I had 2 editions of the 2nd edition. I think someone else I live with actually technically owned the other edition, or the other 2nd edition, and it kind of went by wayside, but then got it back in the collection with loads of expansions. So that is Dominion. Okay, what's left to bring you? Well, I've got, let's talk to you about, now into minimum 3 copies of a game. We have got Lord of the Rings. This is in, I think, number 3, or maybe number 4. This is Lord of the Rings, so this is the Reiner Knizia one. I've met Reiner Knizia. I've got 3 copies of this game. This one's by Hasbro. I've got another one which is in German, the German edition. All of them seem to be missing a piece or 2 potentially. But 2 to 5 players, very thematic. I do like it. How much knights do you have? Do you have enough magic to fight off that thing? And it's kind of just using suits, but it's effective to work through some stories. And it's not the best War of the Ring or Lord of the Rings game. You can find that in War of the Ring, which I'm playing again soon. Check my expansions for that. And that is a kind of area control, abstract strategy, asymmetric game, a different word A there. But yeah, you might want to check out my Lord of the Rings videos, and I do have a playlist for that too. Okay, in at number 2, we have got, and I might have even more of it. Oh no, sorry, if that was 4, that might have been 4 or 3, because I've got even more to bring you. Next up, let's go with Coup Handle, You're Bluffing. So I've got this version of Coup Handle, which is the one I've played the longest, and it's the one it's from the 80s. We've got this one, which actually is even older, but it has the Spiel des Jahres nomination on it. And then I've also got You're Bluffing, which is You're Bluffing Master, which is a Dutch edition, but it's the same game involving rats as well, which Tom Vassel's looked at. And I've also got the newer one, Bidder Up, as well. So it's kind of like 4 editions of Coup Handle. Next up, this one is still in strength, but I have got 2 other copies of it, and that is Hero Quest. I've only played one of the other Hero Quests, but as you can see, I've got expansions of this too, also by Hasbro, and that is Hero Quest. So what is my most owned game? Oh, I don't know if I mentioned about this one as well. I've got multiple copies of War Eternal, if I didn't mention that earlier, and that was kind of an accident, but yeah, 2 copies of War Eternal. So, most game is Nok Mal. I do have the deluxe edition, that doesn't count, but I have 4 copies of Nok Mal. You might say why? Well, because unlike the deluxe edition, which has erasable boards, this one does not. It comes with paper, and we've gone through this paper about 4 times, which is why we've bought so many copies. You can buy extra pads, but some people happen to have copies that they sell. So as you can see, the dice are completely mashed. The kind of ink is completely kind of come off them, or covered in ink now. But yeah, I've gone through another pack of these. Even though I have laminated them, it's still nice playing with the original sheets. As you can see, multiple sets of dice too as backups. But yeah, you can see how much the actual base ink has come off these dice. This is how much this game has been played, over 200 times. Highly recommend checking out Nok Mal. Highly addictive, lots of fun. Everyone's enjoyed it, and I've met the designers too. That has been Nok Mal, my #1 most owned game. Thanks very much for watching. Speak to you again soon. Lots of videos on its way, and of course, make sure you like, subscribe, and the notification bell. As I mentioned, I'm speaking too fast. You know how to slow it down by now, hopefully. And I'll speak to you again on that next one. But for now, enjoy those games, and back to the table.